Hello everyone, in this video I will be going over Prompt 2 in the Visual Journaling project. This week I thought all of us could try our hand at photography and explore how photography can be used to tell stories and share experiences. What inspired me to make this lesson was all of the imagery that has come out of being in this pandemic. While we have been isolated, our visual world has kept us connected to the outside world. Photography has given us greater insight into the way that the community is handling the pandemic. It has also given us insight into the lives of others and helped us to see how other people at home are handling the situation. This in turn has helped us to feel less overwhelmed and like we are not alone in this situation. Photography in general reflects the society from which it arises and is a visual document of the past. Given that we are going through a huge cultural shift right now, photography is keeping us aware of how our world is changing while we are isolated at home. And all photos can tell a story. But how can a single photo tell a story? When looking at pictures, it is often that our view of it is very quick and superficial, and therefore we may find it difficult to get a story out of a photo at first glance. That is why it is important to look for visual clues to discover the story. For example, in this photo, we see two elderly people saying hello to two young children through their glass door. However, we need to go beyond the photo's surface qualities to understand its story. For example, if you notice the warm expression on the elderly people's faces, you could safely assume that they know the children quite well and are possibly even related to them. Another thing that you could get from looking at their facial expressions is that these people may have not interacted in a long time. But if they haven't seen each other in a long time, wouldn't their interactions be a little bit more affectionate? And why the heck are they interacting through that glass door? The fact that they're interacting through that glass door might suggest that they're trying to block some sort of passage. Given what we already know about social distancing, this is one way that people have chosen to stay in contact with one another while still keeping themselves protected. However, if we didn't have this background knowledge, would we truly understand what was actually happening in this photo? That's why it's important to analyze the visual clues within a photo to understand its story. Now that I've shed light on how you can use the visual clues in a photo to determine its story, I will introduce Visual Journal Prompt 2. Before I get into it, I just want to point out that there are two parts. The first part will be actual photography and the second part will be a writing sample. And now for part 1. On this slide is part 1 of Journal Entry Prompt 2. Please pay attention to this slide as the objectives for Art 2 and 3 are both different. If you are in Art 2, you will take at least 2 photos of people, places, things, or events that significantly reflect your experiences while in quarantine. If you are in Art 3, however, you will take at least 3 photos of people, places, things, or events that significantly reflect your experiences while in quarantine. Not sure what experiences you want to share through your photos? On this slide, I am listing a bunch of different examples to help get you rolling. You can borrow an idea from this list or come up with one of your own. What's important, though, is that your photos reflect something of your daily life while in quarantine. Also, please share only what you feel comfortable with sharing. In the next 3 slides, I will share and discuss some of my own examples for part 1 of Prompt 2. In the image on the left, I chose to photograph something that reflects a hobby that I've kept up with. The hobby of playing my keyboard is something that has helped me to de-stress while in quarantine. Whereas the image on the right, I photographed something that I've tried to make more of a frequent routine of. In this photo, I decided to capture something that would reflect a before and after experience that I've had due to the quarantine. The photo on this slide captures the makeshift messy workstation that I've made at home. This photo is significant because it reflects how my work environment has changed drastically due to the pandemic. Rather than teaching in a classroom full of students, I am now teaching through my computer. And on this slide, I'm showing a picture of my dinner from the other night, as well as a picture of my dad walking my dog. Making healthy dinners and going on daily walks are 2 of the ways that my dad and I spend time together every day during quarantine. These photos hold significance to me because they reflect how much more important family time has become, especially during this quarantine. When I was taking my own pictures, there were a few technical things that I paid attention to ensure that my photos were of quality. When you are taking your own pictures, you will need to pay attention to these things as well in order to successfully complete and submit your photos. In the next few slides, please pay special attention as I share a few simple steps for taking good photos. The first thing is to eliminate unnecessary information. For example, on this slide, you see 2 photographs of a fruit arrangement. If you look carefully in the background of the image on the left, you will see a whole bunch of objects that are unnecessary in the photo. Whereas the photo on the right, all of that unnecessary information has been eliminated, leaving just the fruit arrangement. Eliminating unnecessary information from your photo is important because it in turn eliminates distractions from your photos. This in turn helps the viewer to focus on what's most important, and in this case, it's the fruit basket. To get rid of unnecessary information, you can either get the objects out of the picture before you take it, or you can get a close-up shot. Please try these things out before you do any photo editing or any photo cropping. The next thing is to make sure that the photo you are taking is clear and that you have a steady hand while capturing it. On this slide are two shots that I took of my keyboard. The picture on the left is obviously very blurry, whereas the image on the right is a lot clearer. Making sure that your photos are clear prevents the viewer from having to strain when viewing your photo. One easy way that you can capture a clear photo is to get a tripod. If you don't have access to a tripod, try holding the camera as steadily as you can when you're taking the picture. Or put your camera on a steady surface and take the picture on a timer. The last thing that I'll recommend is to make sure that you have good lighting when taking your picture. It is often that people make the mistake of opening up a window and putting their objects in front of it, thinking that the window is going to light their objects up. If you have a window casting light behind your objects, you are almost always going to turn out with a dark image. The image on the left illustrates exactly what I mean about having the window being behind your objects and making them appear way too dark in the photo. Whereas the image on the right, I made sure that my objects had very good surrounding light, and therefore the photo turns out a lot brighter and much more visible. If you're struggling with getting good lighting, you can take lamps from around your house and set them up around your objects so that you can get better lighting. Or you can use a photo editing app to take care of any last-minute lighting issues. Now, once you've had all of your unnecessary information out of the photo, you're sure that your photo is clear, and you're sure that your photo has good lighting, it is time to finally take the shot. Again, here are the objectives for Part 1 and Prompt 2 by grade level. If you are in Art 2, you will take at least 2 pictures of people, places, things, or events that significantly reflect your experiences while in quarantine. If you are in Art 3, you will do the same, however, you will take 3 pictures. For both art levels, here are the requirements for successful completion of Part 1 in Journal Entry Prompt 2. The first thing is to not put yourself at risk to take these photos. That means taking your pictures around your house and not going to any areas that are unsafe. That also means not getting involved with other people that you are not quarantined with. The next thing is to make sure that you are following all the steps for taking good photos. That was making sure you had a clear picture, eliminating anything that's distracting, and making sure that you have good lighting. Lastly, you must submit your work to Google Classroom to get credit. Other ways to make sure that you successfully complete your work is to make sure that you are following all of the directions, not just the directions that are in this video, but the ones that are posted in Google Classroom. For this project, you can use your phone, a digital camera, or a DSLR if you have one. If you don't have access to a digital camera, you are welcome to draw, paint, or do digital work instead. Please keep in mind that if you have to go this route, you are still required to make 2 or 3 images depending on your grade level. If this is the case, I also highly recommend that you go back and re-watch Prompt 1 for visual journaling to get an idea of what the submission requirements would be for a drawing. Also, please take your time with this. Take as many shots to determine your best photos. Lastly, you're welcome to work with people that you're quarantined with to get help with your work. So that is everything for Part 1. Now for Part 2, which is the writing sample. Before I get into it though, I'm just going to take a quick moment to let you know about an extra credit opportunity. If you send me a short email to let me know how things are going with remote learning in this class, I will give you some extra credit. Part 2 is the same for both art levels and is as follows. In no more than 4 to 5 sentences, please identify what you photographed. Then, discuss its significance and how it reflects something you are experiencing while in quarantine. Lastly, identify one thing you learned from this lesson. These are the requirements for successful completion of Part 2. Number 1 is to please put your writing in a Google Doc or in the comment box where you go to submit your work in Google Classroom. Next is to answer all of the questions in complete sentences and use proper punctuation and grammar. Please respond to Part 2 in at least 4 to 5 sentences and get detailed. The more you tell me about your work, the better I will be able to understand your artistic goals. And now it's time for some final clarifications. Before you go to submit your work, I provided this checklist here to make sure that you can successfully complete your assignments. If you can check off everything on this list and you are sure that you are meeting all the requirements, you can probably assume that you will successfully complete this assignment. If you are unsure though, please email me. Last but not least, here are the closing thoughts. Number 1 is please do not email your work to me. please upload and submit it through the assignment post on Google Classroom. Since we've gone remote, I get a lot of emails every day, and therefore, uploading your assignments to Google Classroom is the safest way to be sure that I will get your work. Next, please remember to read the details in the assignment post for any additional important information, as well as to get access to this PowerPoint. Next, please remember to just keep it simple and try not to overthink anything. It's most important that you're having fun with this. If you have any questions or if you're confused, please email me with any questions or concerns. That's all for this video, and I really look forward to seeing what you work with.